The Noom nerds say that people who do Noom a second time are 50% more likely to stick with it and lose twice as much weight. So, guess what? I am going to test that theory this year. Hey y'all, so I am super happy to be back with you today, and I gotta start this video off with a word of thanksgiving for everybody that supports this channel and everybody that watched the first Noom video I did, which was my 1 year review. When I did that video, I really didn't have any expectations for where it would go other than just helping some people on their lifestyle journey, just as I was working through mine. And never in a million years would I have thought that that video would be the most watched thing on my channel. So I just have to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for supporting that video. And it makes me so happy that of all the things we talk about on this channel, that something as important as health and wellness would be what seems to have resonated with people the most. So with that being said, let's get to the real reason why you're here today. Why am I doing Noom again? So let's go back to what happened after my first year, shall we? So after that first year, I cut my subscription, but I kept using the Noom app. If you do Noom the first time and you stop Noom, you still get access to Noom Lite, which basically has just the tracking features. It doesn't have your coach or your course materials or any of the premium stuff, but you can still track your weight and your food, and you still have access to that database, so on and so forth. Which was perfect for me because by the time I got to the end of that year, that was really all I was paying attention to anyway. So I was continuing to weigh in periodically, log my food, log my exercise. And the first probably 6 months went really, really well. I was still on the wagon and making those healthy choices and continuing in the habits that I built. And then maybe a month or two later after that, I started to have changes in my lifestyle, as we all do. And in attempting to adjust for that, I noticed that I stopped working out as often. And I wasn't really concerned about that because exercise for me has always been secondary in this journey to figuring out and managing my relationship with food. I came to the realization the first time that I could not out exercise the way I was eating. So I wasn't worried about, the working out portion. I said I would get back to that later and continue to try to manage the nutrition aspect. And then maybe another month or so went by, and just as life was lifing, I stopped really planning my meals and things like that. And I started having a lot more oh well days, just throw the day away in terms of my diet and nutrition and the choices I was making with food. And so I felt like I needed to really kind of intervene and get back on track. So the beginning of this year, I decided that I was going to give Noom a second go. Now, I had been getting all kinds of emails in my inbox saying, hey, we want you to come back, and lots of coupon codes and things like that. But it wasn't until this point that I felt like I really needed to try this one more time. So let's see. As I sit here today, as of today's weigh in, I weigh 172 pounds. When I started Noom the first time, I weighed 181. When I ended the program the first time, I weighed around 165. So, with some ebbs and flows, I'm like 7 pounds heavier than I was a year ago, which isn't terrible in the grand scheme of things. But I did, gain some of that weight back. And that's one of the things that I hear the most from people. Like, I'm afraid that if I do Noom or any other weight loss program and I stop, that I'm just going to gain the weight back. And so you may be asking yourself, well, does this mean that Noom does not work? And I will say Noom absolutely does work. And at this point, I believe it more now than I did the first time. And I'll share with you why. The two most important things I feel like I gained from doing Noom the first time was empowerment over my choices, not just with food, but in general, and self-awareness. Doing the process the first time, so much of it is about becoming more aware of yourself and how your mind works and what drives your choices. But I became more intimately familiar with myself and my body, right? So the first time I did Noom, I had gained 30 pounds prior. And those 30 pounds crept up on me probably about 5 pounds at a time. And I didn't really notice it didn't really hit me until around pound 20. And by that time, I didn't have a great grasp of what was driving this. And I didn't have the tools to really do much about it. So that's why I decided to do something I'd never done before and try Noom, okay? This time, I'm nowhere near the 30 pounds that I had gained before, but it didn't take me long to notice, your sleep pattern is off. You're tired all the time. Your cravings that you had before that weren't there after a while are starting to return, and you're starting to have some of the aches and pains that you had stopped having. So I'm like more acutely aware of the smallest changes that happen in my life and in my health, which makes me a little more able to correct for them than I would have before. I can notice them quicker and do something about it more quickly. So with that being said, I felt like the bones of the program are what have helped me over this past year, but I'm a little fuzzy on the meat, which brings me to the first reason that I'm doing this again. I need a refresher. I feel like I need a little bit more refreshing on a lot of the practical things that got me through the first time, as well as some of the things I kind of glossed through toward the end of the program. And we'll get to that in a second. But when you sign up for Noom the second time, you go back through the quiz that you did before. So you got to do the quiz. They ask you like how much you weigh, how tall you are, how old you are, your lifestyle, do you have any health issues, so on and so forth, to kind of help point you in the right direction in terms of your personal course, right? And then After you've done the quiz, it asks you if you want to jump back in or whether you want to do the refresher course. I've chosen to do the refresher course, which is like 7 or 8 different sections broken down into like Noom 101, 102, so on and so forth. And the material kind of walks you back through some of the Noom basics, which is great, but it's also quite cognizant of the fact that you've done this before, so they don't like beat you over the head with stuff that you are likely to have retained since the first time you did it, which is great. And they also introduce you to some of the new features. Like the first time I did Noom, you had to sit there and read all of the articles. But this time they have them in podcast format. So a lot of times I'll be at the gym on the bike or the elliptical and I can actually listen to my lessons and, click through them while I'm doing that. And you can also set your reading goal for the day. So instead of being committed to X number of minutes that may be a bit much for you, you have options at the beginning of the program to say, I want to read 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15, whatever makes sense for your lifestyle, which is excellent. So doing it this time to refresh myself and see what this new course has to offer. The second reason I'm doing this again is because my reason has changed. So in Noom, you've got your why, your super why, your ultimate why, and your big picture of why you're doing this and what you would hope your life would look like after, how you want your life to change for the better. The first time I wanted to lose like 20 or 30 pounds, whatever the goal was I set. And by the end of the program, I got to a place where I was less concerned about the number and more concerned about, have I treated my body the best I could treat it? Have I made the best choices I could? Am I really taking care of myself? And is that reflected in what I'm seeing, in the scale or the tape measure? So fast forward to now, I have a pound goal, but it's so far secondary to me having the best quality of life that I can have. This time, I'm a little more focused on my fitness goals. We're going to refresh and deal with my eating habits, but also working on movement and taking care of myself that way to have the best body that I can, the healthiest body that I can, but also to sleep better, to have less aches and pains, to be proactive about any kind of like health issues or risks. I'm almost 35. I'm not 40, but I'm not 25 anymore. And I have to be more cognizant of certain things that begin to happen as you age. I want to be here for my family and be able to enjoy them and them enjoy me. So my big picture, my why has changed. So my approach to this program is going to change, and how I'll interact with my coach, all of that. I'll need different support than I did the first time. So that's reason number 2 why I'm doing this a second time. Reason number 3 is that I am more prepared. So the first time I did this, I never done any kind of wellness program, much less Noom, and I had no idea what to expect, and I had to manage through kind of the learning curve, so to speak, of how this works. This time I'm coming in and I do have an understanding of the big picture, for lack of a better word, and what we're trying to do. And also, I understand more about myself and my lifestyle. Like, for instance, I have slowed down the rate at which I want to try to lose weight because I have found that for me, slow and steady wins the race. It's more sustainable for me to have a little bigger calorie budget and consistently hit that and consistently build in an exercise regimen than to have that lower calorie budget, lose the weight, and not be able to sustain that. That's not even really the point of doing Noom. It's about sustainable changes and transformations in your life. So I'm a little bit more savvy and a little bit more mentally prepared to do this. Also, the pacing now within the Noom program is a little bit more flexible. And I kind of feel that in the way that the app and stuff is structured. So let's see. The refresher course I think is supposed to take like 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not quite on schedule with that, but that's okay because I feel like this time I'm digesting the material a little bit more, even if it is slower, instead of like breezing through certain topics for the sake of saying I did them that day. So, in terms of how I'm doing so far, the most weight I had gained in the last year was like 9 pounds. I think I saw like 174 at some point in the month, and I lost some of that. I saw like 171 yesterday, and I'm at 172 today. So coming down, a few fluctuations, but I'm already starting to see the lifestyle portion of the changes. I'm starting to notice myself make different substitutions, eating smaller portions or moderating myself a little bit better, for lack of a better word. Instead of not working out consistently at all, I have been getting in 3 or 4 workouts a week and taking 2 classes or so a week at my local gym, which helps with accountability. And I'm already just generally starting to feel better about myself and about my life because I know that I'm beginning to do the very best I can to be the very best I can. So I'm excited. I've committed to meal planning, and this week, for the most part, I've been on track cooking and balancing my plates and things like that with the support of my husband. He's been awesome so far. And yeah, I'm looking really forward to seeing how the rest of this year goes and whether or not the theory is true about being more apt to stick with it and potentially losing twice as much weight. So, with that being said, I am going to continue to drop updates on my progress and how things are going over the course of the year. So, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can see when I have dropped those updates. And feel free to share with me. I want to hear in the comments what your health and wellness goals are for the year so we can be praying and supporting each other because we're in this together. So, yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. And I look forward to taking this journey and seeing you this year. So, as always, do what you love what you do, and keep on taking care of yourself. And I will see you guys again for the next one. Bye-bye.